By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, continued struggle. Colombo continues to record high COVID-19 numbers. Meanwhile, multiple areas in Atalugama in the Kaluthara district isolated.
Yesterday, we have conducted 1,500 tests in the whole city of Colombo, and we have identified 120 patients.
We have observed that there are several clusters appearing. In order to avoid this, we have to maintain standard health measures.
One step closer. The second reading of the budget proposal passed in Parliament with a 2/3 majority. Budget content, however, drew flack from the opposition.
Your 6% per annum GDP growth projection for the next 5 years. Isn't this a pipe dream?
Firm conviction. Former senior DIG of the CID is convinced that there is another above terrorist, Zahran Hashim, who orchestrated these two attacks. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Saturday the 21st of November 2020.
නව sunlight sakura දැන් දික්කුකල් පවතින sakura මල් සුවඳින්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamnike Kanaka. Let's start our news bulletin with the pandemic situation. Now, Atalugama comes under the spotlight once more with 8 of its Grama Niladari divisions placed under isolation. It comes at the heels of 17 new infections being confirmed from the area. Colombo, meanwhile, continues to be the hotspot for the coronavirus, with the district yet again topping the list of the highest number of fresh cases confirmed. With the number of infections on the rise, health authorities caution the public to follow safety protocols to the letter, especially within institutions, to prevent the emergence of any possible new clusters.
Sri Lanka reported 439 cases of COVID-19 yesterday. It comes as no surprise that Colombo yet again topped the highest number of cases by district with 160 infections. From the 12 districts where coronavirus cases were reported yesterday, Gampaha notched up 71 infections, while Kaluthara reported 21. Of the 21 infections identified from the Kaluthara district, 17 are confirmed from the area of Atulugama in Bandaragama. Those infections were detected through random PCR tests conducted in 7 Grama Niladari divisions in Atulugama. The random tests were conducted due to 4 employees of a factory in Horana who tested positive for the virus, being residents of the area. In such a backdrop, a decision was made to isolate 8 Grama Niladari divisions in Atulugama. As for the rest of the infections confirmed yesterday, 10 cases each were recorded from Gaul and Kandy, 4 from Nuwara, 3 from Kurunagala, while 2 each were confirmed from Anuradhapura and Matara. The districts of Putlam, Batiklo and Hambantota meanwhile reported 1 case each. 4 infected foreign nationals are also among yesterday's tally of cases. What's more, 36 police officers too are among the infections confirmed yesterday. This puts the total number of infected police personnel at 822. 224 persons among them are personnel of the Police Special Task Force. In the meantime, 74 new infections were confirmed from several prisons yesterday. Prisons of Valikada, Colombo, Busa, Angunakala Palassa and Old Bogambara are among them. Meanwhile, today 13 inmates and 2 prison officials of the Kuruvita prison were confirmed with COVID-19. They are referred to the treatment centre in the area of Gallal in Polonnaruwa. With that, the total number of infections emerging from prisons is 629.
We have observed that there are several clusters appearing, for example, in police, then the prisons and in some other places. So if one or more people are infected and come into this type of setting, it can very fast spread and we can observe large number of cases. So in order to avoid this, we have to maintain standard health measures. We have to maintain even within the institution throughout. And also if somebody develops cough and cold, fever like symptoms, they should be isolated immediately and also should seek medical care or should send to home for resting. And also if somebody has developed these COVID-19 like symptoms, they should not attend to work. If these practices are adhered to, then that we can say confidently that outbreaks of COVID-19 in institutions can be prevented. And also we should keep in mind the schools are also can taken as such institutions, and some schools will be starting by Monday, and all the people involved in this teaching process should take the responsibility to maintain these health standards in the institutions and the schools. All the people who are getting the services or providing services at these economic centers and also the men in market should keep in mind and should practice health guidelines to prevent that it is being spread in other places.
In the meantime, rapid antigen tests conducted on 50 people in the area of Maligavatta have confirmed 14 infections.
The people who have got negative reports from this rapid antigen test were done PCRs and sent to laboratories to check their status on COVID-19. Also, we have done 1,000 PCR tests today in Modara, Mattakkuliya, Jintupitiya, Boralla, Kurulapana, Vallavatta and Maligavatta areas. Yesterday, we have conducted 1,500 tests in the whole city of Colombo, and we have identified 120 patients yesterday. Today's people who have undergone rapid antigen tests and PCR tests will be evacuated tomorrow to the hospitals after the reports are received.
In other developments, the central bank announced that one of its employees have contracted COVID-19. Releasing a statement, the CBSL says that all necessary measures to prevent contagion have been implemented, including the tracing of close contacts and arranging PCR testing for possible contacts. It says that all the tests conducted on employees thus far have returned negative results. In conclusion, the central bank informs the public and the financial markets that the essential operations will continue as usual. In more developments, the woman who escaped from the infectious diseases hospital and fled to Ahaliagoda along with her child is yet to be located. Her child, however, was found yesterday while in the care of the relatives. The woman in question had visited her house as well as a relative's residence in the area of Ahaliagoda, which resulted in 12 members of both houses being placed in self-isolation. The driver of a three-wheeler she travelled in and also the driver and the conductor of the bus she took were also placed under quarantine. Police say that measures are taken to identify the rest of the passengers of the bus. Search operations meanwhile were launched in the area of Hindurangala in Ahaliagoda today, following reports that the escaped woman is in the area. The woman in question was admitted to the IDH hospital after she tested positive for the virus while in prison over charges relating to drug offences. She had used the fan light at the ward she was at as her escape route while being under remand custody. In the meantime, the total number of deaths caused by the coronavirus in the country rose to 74, with the passing of a 70-year-old resident of Colombo too last night. The immediate cause of his death was identified as a heart condition exacerbated by COVID-19. In a separate development, a 65-year-old deceased man has tested positive for COVID-19. He was found dead near the Mahava railway station in Kurunagala on the 19th and was taken to the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital for the post-mortem. Though he tested positive for COVID-19 during the post-mortem, it is not considered as a COVID-19 death. The victim's final rites were performed at the Kurunagala Municipal Council crematorium in accordance with quarantine regulations. In another development, residents of the isolated area of Modara staged a protest today, accusing the government of failing to implement a program which gives them access to food items. With the 257 new infections reported today, the total number of COVID-19 cases reported in Sri Lanka ever since the virus first broke out in March increased to 19,537. From that figure, 13,590 patients have completely recovered, leaving only 5,873 patients under treatment.
Safeguard hand sanitizer නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නිරෝගිමත් දිවයකට ලංකාවේ පළමු වරට හඳුන්වා දෙන Melbourne Veggie Cracker.
Crunchy veggie.
Now, the Sri Lankan High Commission in London has responded to the claims made by Chairman of the Elders, former Irish President Mary Robinson, last week, where she likened the political crisis in the United States in the aftermath of the presidential election to Sri Lanka, Kenya and Zimbabwe. The Elders is a group of global leaders, and its chair called the situation volatile and undemocratic. Her comments were published in several newspapers, and the Sri Lanka's High Commissioner in London has responded, highlighting that there has never been a situation in the island's electoral history where a party or a person voted out of elections refusing to accept the people's verdict.
On the 12th of November, the Irish Times ran a story titled "Republican Fear of Donald Trump Undermining US Democracy, Democrats Say." In it, comments by Chair of the Elders and former President of Ireland, Mary Robinson, was cited. Quote, "It is shocking to have raised concerns about US democratic processes, as the Elders have previously commented on volatile and undemocratic situations in states such as Kenya, Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe." Unquote. To this, Sri Lankan High Commissioner in London, Saroja Sirisena, has responded by a letter addressed to the newspaper editor, drawing attention to the inaccuracy of Robinson's comments. She has said that Sri Lanka is one of Asia's oldest and uninterrupted democracies, where universal suffrage was granted in 1931. She also highlighted that successive governments in Sri Lanka have always been elected democratically at elections held in a timely manner, and subsequent transfer of power has always been swift, smooth and peaceful. The Sri Lankan ambassador added, quote, "There has never been a situation in Sri Lanka's electoral history where a party or a person voted out at elections refusing to accept the people's verdict." Unquote. While insisting that Robinson's reference to Sri Lanka is inaccurate and unacceptable, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner called for the publication of the clarification with the same prominence afforded to the article.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the second reading of the Budget Proposal 2021 passed with a two-thirds majority this evening. 151 votes were cast in favour, while only 52 votes were cast against. Contents of the budget proposal continue to be debated in Parliament today as well, with the opposition calling the 6% GDP growth forecast by the government ambitious. The Leader of the House, meanwhile, stated that the European Union delegation has given assurance on the question of the GSP+.
EU delegation met me. The EU delegation has their own problems and they understand our problems. There are areas that are being resolved. There are areas that they have helped us. They will continue to help us. They gave the assurance, I must say, on the question of the GSP+. The assurances were given. There are other matters that we have tried to resolve. The automobile industry is one area that has been affected. But do we immediately need the automobiles, or do we immediately need investment? All the investment concessions have been granted for us to restart or reinvest in new areas. Technology that will cut down our unnecessary expenditures of our country, from the government sector to the private sector.
Let me at the outset ask this simple question. Your 6% per annum GDP growth projection for the next 5 years, isn't this a pipe dream? In my view, GDP growth in the short term will recover very slowly. An immediate jump to 6% is a very unrealistic forecast. The following are some negative features which is bound to hamper growth in the short term. The tourism industry, which contributes about $4 to 5 billion to the economy, is in slumber, and my personal view is that this industry will continue to be procrastinating until the second half of 2022. Furthermore, most of these businesses have been highly leveraged with bank debt and have not been servicing their debt since April 2019. Based on the Easter Sunday related moratoriums granted by the state, these moratoriums have been further extended into 2021. In this backdrop, with no predictable revenues for the industry until at least mid-2022, in late 2021, debt servicing will become a major challenge to all these businesses. Another contributor to growth is consumer spending. With significant scaling down of businesses and lack of industry activity, the consumer's wallet will be impacted, and consumer spending in the short term will move in a downward trajectory, thus negatively impacting growth once again. In this backdrop, a forecast of 6% GDP growth per annum in the short term is very ambitious and may distort other economic indicators. Demonization of Muslims has become the new normal. The health crisis has been manipulated to reinforce the false narrative of blame game on the Muslims, resorting to virtual ethnic profiling as if we are spreading this disease. A type of corona racism is being spread by some media institutions and also aided and abetted by some among the government benchers, unfortunately for cheap political mileage, demanding our right to treat the dead with dignity and permit burials. We are being labelled as unpatriotic.
Now, parliamentarian of the Samagi Janabalaweke, Dr. Harsha De Silva, is unimpressed with the budget proposal 2021. He believes that the government has failed to provide any stimulus package, falling short of people's expectations, while charging that the means of foreign debt financing is also omitted. However, contrasting views are offered by economists at the University of Colombo, Indrajit Aponso, saying that the government's primary focus through the budget has been to revive economic growth.
The budget proposal 2021 was presented in Parliament on Tuesday, and many tax concessions, exemptions and holidays were proposed covering various sectors in a bid to revive the economy, which experienced a considerable slowdown owing to the COVID-19 global pandemic. Tax concessions of 10 years were proposed under the Strategic Developments Act for investments exceeding $10 million, which have the potential to change the landscape of the economy in the sectors of export, dairy, fabric, tourism, agricultural products and processing, and information technology. A 5-year income tax exemption, meanwhile, was proposed for the agriculture sector. On the renewable energy front, a tax holiday of 7 years was proposed via the budget, while the tax concessions were granted for the Port City Economic Zone. For approved startups by persons who have completed vocational education, a tax exemption of 5 years was proposed. It was also proposed that companies which list at the Colombo Stock Exchange before the 31st of December be granted a 50% reduction in income tax for the year of assessment 2021-2022 and a reduced tax rate of 14% for the subsequent 3 years. In the meantime, a reduction in tax on dividends by 25% in the year 2021 and a 50% reduction in the year 2023 was proposed for multinational companies. However, not everyone seems to be enchanted by what's proposed in the budget proposal 2021. Member of the opposition Dr. Harsha De Silva believes that the budget did not provide any form of economic stimulus that was expected by the people.
To me, I feel as if this budget was written by somebody in a parallel universe. Why I say that is for 3 reasons. One is that the current crisis that we are facing is the economic slowdown due to COVID. People out of work, self-employed people are unable to make ends meet. Even today we saw already protests in Modra where people who've been locked down for almost a month have come out on the street because they have no income, they have no food, they can't live because only 40% of the people have been given that measly 5,000 rupees. So people expected a stimulus in this budget. How can we help the small industries? How can we help big industries? Except for 0.25% tax on some companies so that they could use it as an insurance scheme. There's nothing else in the budget. Not a cent has been put by the government on a stimulus program. So that's the first thing. The second thing is obviously the volcano we are sitting on with reference to the foreign debt that we have to meet. As of yesterday's central bank weekly report, we have about $6,700 million coming due both for the government and other state and other enterprises in the next 12 months. So what is our plan to raise the necessary foreign exchange to meet these payments? Are they thinking of some sort of debt moratorium? Are they thinking of some sort of restructuring? What is the plan? No plan has been presented. And the third is the longer term plan for our country. We believe the only way to strengthen the local economy, the local farmer, the local industrialist is not to build a wall around this country, but actually to build bridges to connect with the region and beyond so that what we produce here can be sold in a big bigger marketplace. And finally, that there has been a huge attempt, and this attempt must be reversed, to shift expenditure numbers from 2020 to already audited 2019. This is wrong. Only Parliament can provide the space for government to spend. That space has not been provided in 2019. We have a cash accounting system, so you have to stick to a cash accounting system. In 2014, 2015, when the government changed, similar bills had to be paid. This is nothing new, and it has to be continued. We hope that this will, at least at this late stage, be reversed, because otherwise we will only fool ourselves among not just the people but the international community.
Economist at the University of Colombo, Indrajit Aponzu, however, harbours a more optimistic outlook on the budget proposal, saying that the primary focus of the government through the budget has been to revive economic growth.
The debt servicing, which is in the range of $4.5 billion annually, and economic growth which has now in the negative territory, and reviving that to something like 6% economic growth, has been on the primary focus of the government in this budget. Interestingly, this budget has approached these major challenges, which are in some kind of optimism and some kind of expectation, and to restore the stability in the overall economic scenario. The economic growth, as being said previously as well, has been a continuation of export-relied economic growth, which is one of the most sensible directions the government has embarked upon. And the other side of it is the debt financing. Now, for that, the government takes a very uncharacteristic measure of not wanting to get into foreign debt and trying to rely on something like the budget deficit, which is about 1.7 trillion from the domestic resources. Now, this is a very challenging thing, because about 1.3 trillion debt has to be raised domestically. I'm sure these statistics wouldn't have been just plucked from thin air. They have been based on some reliable sources. Assuming that these things are the case, the other challenging measure is the revenue measure, which is basically they are maintaining the status quo, and they are trying to say that this status quo is going to be the situation and the policy direction for the next 5 years. That's a very good thing. From the investor's point of view, it's not so much about the situation, it's about the future and the guarantee the government gives with regard to its policies, especially the taxation and other areas. Having said that, there is a major challenge with regard to the collection of revenues, especially income taxes have been brought down from 28% to 24%. The understanding here is you are trying to broad base the tax base and see more tax collection rather than higher tax percentages, which is a good thing. What is outside the budget, there are certain scenarios. For example, port city investments, and also the possibility of attracting more investments to come into the country. So in that way, it would be possible in the medium term future, or even the immediate term future, that the balance of payment will not be as bad as it looks, and also we might have more growth momentum coming from those investments as well.
We will see you shortly. Bear with us. Welcome back. Now, former Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department at the time of the Easter Sunday spate of terror, Ravi Seneviratne, is convinced that there is another person who is above attack's ringleader, Zahran Hashim. Giving evidence before the Presidential Commission probing the attacks, the former DIG said that investigations didn't uncover any links with Zahran's outfit and the so-called Islamic State either. Former Senior DIG in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department at the time of these two attacks, Ravi Seneviratne, gave evidence before the Commission for the first time yesterday. The Commission asked him whether he was aware that a team from the CID met with Ami Mohideen, who had close contacts with Zahran Hashim but did not arrest him. The witness responded, quote, "Those officers obtained approval to go to the area of Pasikuda from me, but I did not know that they met with someone like Ami Mohideen," unquote. The chairman of the commission then asked the witness, quote, "Former Minister Harin Fernando's father had given a message asking not to attend church on the 21st of April. According to information we have at present, a member of the CID team which went to Pasikuda in search of Ami Mohideen, Sergeant Nandalal, had contacted Harin Fernando's father at around 8 p.m. on the 20th. It is possible that Harin Fernando's father got to know of something through Sergeant Nandalal. But how did Sergeant Nandalal know there will be an attack on the 21st? Unquote. The witness replied that he does not know how Sergeant Nandalal came to know of it and offered an explanation. He said, quote, "It is in 2017-2018 that Zahran Hashim decided that an attack was necessary. Although Zahran had tried various things, they had failed. That's when Sadiq had said that at least pelt a stone at a statue of Lord Buddha. Many who had attended his lectures had been intent on being a militant in a country where war is being waged for an Islamic state. But after hearing his lectures, they had agreed to commit suicide here." Zahran had sent his wife to a gynecologist at the beginning of 2019 to have another child. "We even planned to arrest Zahran via that gynecologist. When considering these facts, they had initially planned an attack in 2020. But in the first week of April, Zahran has arbitrarily decided to launch an attack. It is around the 18th of April that they had decided to launch an attack on the 21st." Unquote. Citing the statement of Zahran's wife given before the Commission told the witness that a child was not expected at the beginning of 2019. Quoting another investigation agency, the Commission added that the attack was planned for the 27th of March in 2019. The witness replied, quote, "After the attack, I directed my investigation towards a special direction. That is to identify the force which influenced Zahran. There has to be someone above Zahran. Another thing is that investigations didn't uncover that Zahran and his group received any backing or money from ISIS. All 41 accounts uncovered are Sri Lankan accounts. It is the Ibrahim brothers who had largely funded the string of attacks." Unquote. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.